Tales from the Calamity. In the year 1572 of the sixth astral era, the armies of the Eorzean Alliance and the Garlean Empire met in battle upon the fields of Carteneau. In the midst of that terrible carnage, weary soldiers craned their heads upwards and looked upon crimson Dalamud with horror as the lesser moon shattered and the elder primal Bahamut burst forth, an avatar of fury, determined to lay waste to all and sundry. So ended an era and the world as we knew it. In the days preceding and following this calamity, brave souls steeled themselves for the challenges ahead, and it was thanks to their concerted efforts that Eorzea survived to see another day. Tales from the Calamity. Where victory and glory lead. We are lost, thought Merlvib Lufusvin. Immured for eons and free at last, the primal Bahamut laid waste to the Carteneau flats, burning Eorzeans and Garleans alike. But I will find a way. Tearing her gaze away from the bloody churn, she bit down gently on her tongue, an old commander's trick, and despite the ash-laden air, the voice that issued from her throat was clear as compass wind. Belay previous orders! All Maelstrom units are commanded to fall back, effective immediately. In the distance, the Admiral caught a glimpse of Archon Louisoix's resolute silhouette, arms raised in the rite of summoning. Not even the 12 can help us now, she thought, with something like despair, as she swung herself into the saddle. Dalamud has hatched, and no man can unbreak an egg. Give the foreign levy priority. Let the main host cover their retreat and bring up the rear. Einzar Slafferson let go the bridle as Merlvib took hold of the reins. A shard of the false moon had pierced the mail under his right arm, she saw. Blood rilled, dark and steady. Her adjutant would likely not survive a hard ride. Get those adventurers to safety, she repeated. I shall send you stragglers. We must regroup. See to it. At once, Admiral, Einzar snapped a salute. He knows me too well to waste time arguing, Merlvib reflected, as she urged her faithful bird to a gallop. And he knows most of our runners are dead or near as damn it. A sharp queh brought her back to the present. Good girl, Vicky, she murmured as the chocobo sped onward through a blur of death and ruin. Fall back! Fall back to the main host, Merlvib called again and again until the route became a stream, then a river, flowing towards Einzar, and, she hoped, safety. But there was a knot in the crowd, fighting its way against the tide until it emerged at the rear, then pushing on towards the Garlean position. Always, Merlvib thought without rancor, and spurred her chocobo forward. Always there are those who put glory before victory. Save your breath, Admiral. I mean to make those Garlean curs pay, and pay they will, Roswin spat, and Merlvib was reminded of the old saying, Pirates weep with their swords, and their tears are red. So many sirens. Spleeny Ebro won't sing no more, no Anist Blackeye, nor— There you are, you liverless tin-pot bastards! A savage joy blazed in Roswin's eyes at the sight of something behind Merlvib, and the Maelstrom commander touched her spur to Victory's left as she unholstered her pistols in one smooth motion. Death penalty barked, and a Garlean legionnaire tumbled backwards. Two sharp coughs from Annihilator and more men fell, to reveal the beetle-black gleam of Magitech armor cresting the rise. It has a beak, Merlvib thought with strange calm, her legs squeezing Victory's flanks of their own accord. The chocobo sprang as the Magitech cannon roared. Then Merlvib was falling, the world drowning in blood and feathers, and she knew no more. The most rest you had in years, I'll wager. Merlvib awoke to a familiar sight. Her quarters on the Triumph, and Einzar, his face graven with fatigue, but alive and on his feet. How long? She demanded. Present course and speed? 2 days, Limsa, 8 knots, he answered. The Alliance regrouped in Thanalan where the alchemists saw to our hurts. They meant to keep you abed in Ul'dah, but I assured them that would not be necessary. We are crossing the Strait of Merlthor for home. The sirens? Roswin? Einzar laughed. Merlvib could almost hear the rust in it. Command, especially the command of a retreating force, was a somber business. The bloody executioners hauled you from the front like pullers with a bulging net, but they had no luck coaxing Captain Roswin to join. Then came the last of the dread pirate crews 3, the Kraken's arms, and Carveline swept her up onto the saddle like a bloody knight of Ishgard. Last I saw, they were trading curses. Good. Merlvib willed her eyes to stay open. She was suddenly very tired, and could not bring to mind the names of the others who had been present. No matter. Einzar would know. The retreat from Carteneau. I ordered a unit be given priority. Did you get them to safety? Einzar looked up at her, his brow furrowed. Beg pardon, Admiral? My orders were to bring up the rear as the main host retreated, gathering any stragglers you directed towards us, then begin regrouping. You did not order that any be given priority over another. The coming days were too full for Merlvib or Einzar to fret overmuch about her odd lapse. She had taken a blow to her head, after all, and it was a trifle compared to what awaited them in Vilbrand. As the Triumph neared home, they saw livid crystals bursting from Pharos Sirius, flaunting their corruption for all to see. Galadian Bay was a floating Carteneau, the sea strewn with bodies, debris, and hollow-eyed survivors of the tidal wave that had scoured the coastline. Einzar was lucky, Merlvib thought as she surveyed the destruction. What size these shards, to make an eighth hell of this fair anchorage? And what of we who have been spared? How can we go on when so much has been lost? I will find a way. Merlvib ordered that the Maelstrom's temporary command be established at the Merabi dry docks, sheltered from the worst of the great wave by the god's grip. From there, the remains of Limsa Lominsa's great armada sailed with food and supplies, aid and succor, women of strength and men of compassion. Admiral Merlvib slept little, but when she did, it was always one of two dreams that she dreamed. In one, she bit down on her tongue, then called out, "Give them priority. Let the main host cover their retreat." In the other, she rode a destroyer in the cool night, the bird crooning contentedly, and the rider murmuring, "Good girl, Vicky." Time passed. Some wounds healed, others did not. The fishing boats returned to sea, and the merchants, stevedores, and cut purses to the docks. The new Maelstrom command took shape on the upper decks, the ships of the Armada returned to their proper anchorage, and the Merabi dry docks were recommissioned as a shipyard. During those turbulent days, those who knew Merlvib best, and there were not many, remarked that she had been changed by Carteneau. To the scores that came to the Admiral for help, she gave no false comfort, but neither was she as hard as once she had been. She spoke instead of hope, courage, and the lost warriors who stood with the Archon on the Carteneau flats. For this Merlvib won the love of her people, yet struggled to accept it. So unsettling did the thought seem to her that one night, unable to sleep, she wandered the city, finding herself at length outside an Ishgardian's stable as young birds murmured drowsily within. When Naldic and Vimeles began work on the first of the Thalassocracy's new warships, there was no question as to whom the honor of naming it would go. One fine day, soon after, half the city turned out to see the Victory's keel laid. When the Admiral of Limsa Lominsa inscribed her name upon the oak with a great flourish, the cheers rolled like thunder across the tranquil waters of Galadian Bay and set the gulls and ravens flapping from every mast.